It is 2:04. We're going to focus now on one of the more underreported tragedies of Russia's war with Ukraine. Thousands of children who've been abducted by Russia. This weekend, a coalition of MPs, union leaders, campaigners and members of the public will meet in London for the March for the Children of Ukraine. They're demanding Russia returns the children and face justice for their war crimes. Well, Joanna Baxter is the Labour MP for Paisley and Rouen-South. She's the author of a report called Returning Ukraine's Stolen Children. Joanna, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
It's a pleasure.
You've been speaking to some of the parents of whom they've had their children abducted in Ukraine. Tell us what's happened.
So, around 19,546 children have been stolen from Ukraine by Russia. These are children in occupied territories, in care homes, some of them, and some of them have been taken from their parents to go to summer camps from which they never return. And these summer camps are essentially re-education camps where they are prevented from speaking Ukrainian, from learning about their own culture, from singing their national anthem, are instead taught drone warfare. Some of the younger children, when they're taken to Russia, are then adopted into Russian families. Their names are changed, their identities are changed, and they are legally then Russian. It's the erasure of Ukrainian identity, one child at a time.
How does this happen? I mean, this puts the parents in an unimaginable position.
It's a horrendous position for the parents. Russia are targeting some of the most vulnerable children in Ukraine. And some of the parents, particularly those in the occupied territories, are coerced into handing their children over to Russian forces. And some of these children are being flown directly out of Ukraine on Russian military aircraft that's under the direct control of President Putin. What we're seeing is war crime that's playing out in real time, it is a war crime. It's horrendous, and it is not being discussed nearly as much as it should be.
Once they've been abducted, how do we know what's happening to these children?
So Yale University have a research lab who were doing some incredible work in tracking the children from Ukraine. And their funding was cut because of the DOGE cuts in the US. So a number of us spoke out about that at the time. And the data that they collated has now, I understand, been handed over to Europol. So there is some ability to track the children based on where they were taken from, but of course some have not been traced at all. Whilst the verified number of children taken is 19,546, independent experts anticipate that the real figure is more than double that. And we certainly know that the Russian Deputy Education Minister has already boasted that 53,000 Ukrainian children are expected to attend these summer camps in Russia or Belarus over the course of this summer. So the number could very well escalate much higher unless something is done to prevent that this summer.
Yeah, I was going to ask how confident you are that we actually know where these children are, but I think you sort of covered that. Not very. I mean, Russia's tried to say this is they're doing this for humanitarian reasons.
So I would dispute that. Russia has actually been very diligent in keeping records of children that they have taken, because many of them have ended up on Russian adoption websites. And in fact, the Russian children's minister, Maria Lvova-Belova, has publicly boasted about the fact that she has adopted one of these children. One of the worrying things, though, is that when the children come of age, if you like, they are then being conscripted into the Russian Youth Federation military to go back and fight against their very own country. I mean, it's absolutely barbaric what's happening. And there are already international arrest warrants out for both President Putin and Maria Lvova-Belova for the illegal deportation of children from Ukraine.
Your President Zelensky has made the return of these children a non-negotiable in any sort of peace talks. I mean, we have been following so closely the torturous attempts to try and come to some kind of peace agreement, which seems, even the US president losing patience completely and expressing his fury with Putin this week. I mean, how confident do you feel that we're going to even get to a place where those negotiations can start in a way which then means you can talk about what happens to these children?
I'm not confident on the basis that Russia, despite all of these talks about peace and negotiations, continue to kill indiscriminately every single day in Ukraine. I have been in a bomb shelter in Ukraine. It's not a pleasant experience, and these people are being terrorized on a daily basis by Russia. But I completely understand why President Zelensky has made this a non-negotiable element to any discussions, because this is the attempted erasure of Ukrainian identity, one child at a time. So there can be no lasting peace without the return of children that have been stolen from their own country.
What was it like when you had conversations with those parents?
It was heartbreaking.
They're obviously hoping you can do something to try and help. You've got this march taking place this weekend that presumably is doing one of the first things, which is raising awareness that this has even happened.
Absolutely. And when I came back from Ukraine, and the trip that I took with a cross-party delegation moved me. It was one of the most powerful experiences of my life. And I made it my mission, because when we first learned about this, when we were in Ukraine, I simply could not believe that people were not discussing it, because at that time, there really wasn't, this wasn't in the media at all. So I wanted to do my bit to try to raise the profile of the issue, to get some support for the Ukrainians in this plight, and to try to press our government to do even more than they are, because they have done incredible work in terms of bringing together the coalition of the willing to try to forge a path to peace. But we need a coalition of the women willing to try to secure the return of these children. So I think there is more that we can be doing in terms of increasing our sanctions, investigating whether this meets the legal definition of a genocide, and trying to make sure that we coordinate with our international partners to put pressure on Russia to return the stolen children of Ukraine.
Yes. I mean, how optimistic are you that we're going to be able to, or you are going to be able to help engineer that as an outcome?
Well, we can but try, and that's what I will always try to do. Persistence is my middle name, and if you speak to any of the government ministers, they will tell you that I have been like a dog with a bone on this issue. Because it needs public awareness to galvanise support and put pressure on the international community to do more, to step up more for these children. I don't think we should ever be defeatist. This is a war crime, and it's playing out in real time. And there's no other circumstance in which the world stands idly by whilst war crimes are committed without speaking out. So we must speak out. I will continue to speak out for these children, and I'll do whatever I can to lend my support to the Ukrainians trying to secure their return.